When we look at every generation of hip-hop, there has been no time as successful yet as contested as the current one we have been living in, with more styles of rap music being present than ever. While the ever-growing expansive musical ecosystem has allowed for hip-hop to become the most popular genre of music in the world, it has also caused for the most threatening divide ever seen in the history of the culture. As styles like trap music and later on the SoundCloud era took over the world, many traditional rappers took the rise of these movements as a threat to some of hip-hop's most sacred aspects, such as lyricism. From older lyricists attacking new stars to new stars disrespecting all-time legends. It seemed like every single day while hip-hop was reaching new heights of popularity, the divide between generations past and present had never been greater. Now, as the current state of hip-hop became further and further from unification, it was clear that while all different types of hip-hop artists will continue to find success in the modern era, the generational divides will only separate rap music more as the art form continues to grow. Now, in this modern era of hip-hop, one of the rarest things for an artist to be is universally loved by the culture. No matter if you're as popular as Drake, as skilled as Kendrick Lamar, or as relatable as J. Cole. It seemed like every star in modern hip-hop received criticism from some corner of the culture, so when one rapper finally emerged that defeated this narrative, their presence felt all the more special. In an era where nobody could agree on anything no matter what type of fan you were, there's one rapper who to every type of listener undeniably embodied the spirit of hip-hop, and this is what made them so unique. By bridging a generational gap that so many thought would never be connected again and encompassing the roots of hip-hop's past with the flashiness of today, this MC would use this power to make not just any impact on the culture, but one that would allow him to create modern hip-hop's magnum opus. So sit back and let me tell you how JID made modern hip-hop's perfect album with his record, The Forever Story. Now, when we look at The Forever Story, while this record has gotten overlooked at major award shows and is not as popular as some of the biggest albums in rap right now, despite the entire record not having the universal recognition of some other projects, everyone is familiar with the viral and platinum hit from the record's surround sound, and when it comes to understanding why The Forever Story is modern hip-hop's magnum opus, this track is the very key to it all. At its core, what makes The Forever Story such a special album is how it unified every single aspect of what has defined hip-hop culture present and past as a multi-generational art form, and with this one track, JID does this in the most insane and surreal way possible. Surround sound samples One Step Ahead by Aretha Franklin, and specifically, it uses the same loop that Mos Def used on his 1999 track Miss Fat Booty, and by building the entire record around this iconic sample, JID pays homage to the golden age of hip-hop and the soul samples that define the production at the time, but simultaneously, the way the sample is sped up, contorted, and ramped up with some commanding drums all of a sudden makes a track with the heart so many people say music today is missing have the flair of a head-bopping banger, and this rare musical eclipse makes for a moment truly like nothing else. I think the fact that this song has recently gone viral on TikTok really speaks volumes to just how universal its appeal is, as this dynamic blend of lyrical banter from JID and featured guest 21 Savage over production that infuses soul sampling, boom bap, and modern trap music make for a combination that has given us a bona fide platinum hit that has become one of the first organically viral songs in such a long time. So when we look at surround sound and see how one track can infuse boom bap and today's trap music and sample Aretha Franklin yet also feature 21 Savage all in this same song, you see how JID holds the rare power to bend together so much of what has defined hip-hop at its core, and throughout The Forever Story, he only continues to make this rap's landmark release of the modern era. Now, while surround sound shows just how massive a scope The Forever Story is able to find musical greatness within, this is far from the only time JID pulls off these generational crossovers. Just from looking up and down the track list, seeing the fact that The Forever Story features names as different as Mos Def, who now goes by Yasin Bey, and Lil Durk all on the same record is absolutely insane, and it's a sentiment to JID's greatness that he can incorporate such a wide blend of talent and skills into a record to all tell the same story and build on the same narrative. Now, while being able to merge so many eras of production and encompass the skill set of rappers from both the present and past makes this album special already, what's put it in as elite of company as it has ended up in is the very story JID is telling throughout this album. Now, historically in hip-hop, so many of the records that have came out over the years all focus on similar themes and ideas. From the hungry come-up, rags to riches journey to a life of stardom, So many of the greatest rap albums of all time pen their stories about these very topics, and after decades of doing so, Jid decided to use these themes to architect something that has never been done before. Now, as hip-hop is now past its first 50 years of life, while many albums and songs still harp on these themes, so much of what made these ideas exciting in the 80s and 90s feels stale and even cliche now, so to serve as the ultimate progression of hip-hop's core themes, recontextualizing just about everything that defines the genre in ways that it has needed for quite some time. JID doesn't just talk about his come-up and his journey towards stardom on the Forever Story, but he frames it in a way that is more compelling than nearly anything else rap has ever seen. I think the track Stars really helps bring this idea to life, as it subverts the usual trope we see in hip-hop of aspiring rappers working hard to make it big in the music industry. Now, the way this is done is on the first half of the track, we see Jid play the role of an aspiring MC who was doing everything to make it, while in the second, none other than Mos Def foils this by rapping from the perspective of a seasoned artist who has been abused and mistreated by the industry, as his verse talks about how the chase to get a record deal and the desperation young artists have to get anything from major labels ultimately ends up making them slaves to the industry, and having this come from somebody like Yasin Bey, who has had his fair share of problems within the music industry, makes this invaluable warning to young artists and individuals all the more powerful. It's these constant subversions and explorations beyond what most rappers give us about these topics that makes the Forever Story feel like the album that hip-hop culture has always been destined to receive. Jid is such a nuanced writer and storyteller, as he's able to set up ideas that play on topics in hip-hop that have become so worn out and overused, yet he explores them in ways that are so unexpected and eye-opening. The Atlanta MC references his journey towards making it big on this album, and not to just flex about how hard he has worked or how much money he has, but to set up how the things he worked tirelessly to achieve have changed him not just for better, but also for worse. We see the climax of this on a track like Can't Make You Change, as we witness how the vices of fame have only further enabled Jid's inability to grow and mature, as his overinflated ego destroys a once cherished relationship between him and a significant other. I mean, compare this to any track that pits an artist and a lover they are failing in a relationship with against one another, where most tracks point fingers or make surface-level statements and generalizations about the heartbreak and toxicities of love. Jid explores how his vices, trauma, and the place he is at in his career are all destroying his humanity and preventing him from being the man he needs to be. Now, while most rappers these days do not have the ability to convey these types of stories, Jid is one of the most skilled MCs that hip-hop has seen really since Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole. Now, one of Jid's most recognizable traits is his on-the-fly ability to rap incredibly fast, and while a lot of new rappers who do this as well end up being labeled as corny or cringe, JID has been praised and put in a league of his own because of this, and the reason why is because Jid lets the skill enhance the stories in his songs and the weight of his performances, as opposed to other rappers that use this sort of skill as an attraction in itself that ends up hurting the music instead of being a part of it. Take a track like Radar. Jid's flow builds and relieves tension by increasing in speed, and this ultimately helps create the chaotic atmosphere the song is trying to convey. With each track on this album, Jid manages to pull a new trick out of his lyrical bag, and this doesn't just make things exciting, but it adds depth and texture to this record, all the way to the point where each moment and line needs to be studied together. I think the bar, "You know I'm a rant when I talk to Ja" on the song Dance Now really puts into perspective the just next level way Jid is approaching the art of lyricism to, and in a time where it seems that rappers are either lyrical without the musicianship to back it up, or you got dudes who just don't care about bars at all. It's truly exciting to see Jid creating music that is just as flashy and exciting as anything else in the mainstream, yet it has the lyrical complexity of the best albums from generations past. Now, while the Forever Story shows the skillfulness and scope to already be a classic album, what I think ties together this record and puts it in a league of its own as the definitive record of this era in hip-hop we are currently living in is the uncompromisable amount of heart that the project shows as well. Now, while JID plays on the subversions of so many of the tropes and trends in hip-hop that have gotten so stale to make this album great, what I think is more important is how he leans into some of the best parts of the modern era as well. Specifically, I am looking at the aspect of modern rap music that has made records more compelling and life-changing than ever, which is, of course, the sheer vulnerability and introspectiveness that has elevated so many projects to connect with listeners in ways that people thought hip-hop would never be able to. In connection to his come-up and all it has changed in his life. One of the core ideas of the Forever Story focuses on JID's family, and this is one of my favorite parts about it. Whether it's a sweet track about siblings like Systonym or a crazy cut that tells the story about the time JID and his 6 siblings fought an entire bar's worth of people in New Orleans on crack sandwich. Every time Jid harps on the value of family and how him, his parents, and siblings got each other through even the worst of times. It adds depth to every corner of the album because we understand the moments, values, and people who actually defined and helped JID reach the point he is at. Understanding a man's life in just about as clear of a picture that music can show you. This entire LP feels like the ultimate window into a rapper's journey, and through the universal themes it covers and to the depth it explores these topics in a lot of ways, the Forever Story feels like the thesis statement to what hip-hop as a genre has aspired to be and represents as a whole. I think the greatest artistic accomplishment Jid makes on this album is the track Kody Blu 31, which is a soul-touching cut that unites all of the album's ideas and themes together in this tearjerker for the ages. From the hollow instrumentation to the bleak humming in the background, the atmosphere of this song is riddled with pain, but ultimately through Jid's empowering singing and the crowd of voices who repeat the phrase swang on, there's a feeling and emotion that us as humans all need that's restored into the spirit of this track: hope. Hearing Jid talk about the demons he fights to protect himself in an industry of vultures and the love he holds on to and uses to support himself and his family. As we go through life, we need to preserve and hold on to who we are and what we love to keep going. This is a timeless theme that's not framed like this enough, not just in rap, but in all of art and media, and Jid's one-of-a-kind approach to this entire song breathes a special air into this record that you rarely ever see. Now, when it comes to something else you rarely see in hip-hop, the Forever Story's final track, 2007, joins the club of cuts like J. Cole's For Your Eyes Only and Kendrick Lamar's Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst, as with over 7 minutes of storytelling and narration. He delivers one of the greatest storytelling songs of all time. Now, after a project that told us all about Jid's journey and life to stardom and all of the highs and lows that it has brought, this track takes even more steps back as it completes the full picture Jid has been painting by adding more context to his rise and even offering some outside perspectives from the likes of some of the most important people throughout his personal and professional journey, like his own father and mentor J. Cole. From playing football and destroying his playing career to all the decisions that could have had his rap career play out very differently. Jid adds to the scope of this album by going in depth about how he got to a place to even have a come-up story in the first place and how it all could have been thrown away had he not valued his artistry and held on to who he is the way he did. So when you look at the Forever Story as modern hip-hop's magnum opus and really one of the quintessential hip-hop records that the genre has seen in quite some time, this is the perfect ending, as this track captures the very essence of the journey all great rappers have went on, as it highlights the spirit that no matter what generation you are from, defines a true MC. So for Jid taking the come-up story, fleshing it out in ways that have never been thought of, while also weaving it through tracks that have such timeless themes and ideas, the Forever Story is an album that is larger than a single artist, as it represents what the ideology of hip-hop is so well and executes it at a level of mere perfection. So for all these reasons, while we live in an era that has given us a ton of great and generational albums, in this current moment we are living in, the Forever Story stands tall as the one that defines everything the art form it is representing is about on every single level. So there you have it. That's why I think the Forever Story is modern hip-hop's perfect album. Let me know, do you agree with my take? Remember, if you don't, that's fine. Let me know in the comments right now. Are you rocking with the Forever Story as the perfect rap album of this generation, or do you disagree? Now, if you want to hear why I think JID's upcoming collab album with Metro Boomin is going to change the future of hip-hop, check out the suggested video.